Oh, hey. I don't know why I'm pretending to read this. I already finished it. It already broke me. So, welcome to the video, I guess. AJR is a band that's always perplexed me. Now, their music is pretty complicated, to say the least. But I'm not necessarily referring to the brothers or anything that they've created. I'm more talking about how they're perceived. AJR is yet another band who often gets slapped with the moniker worst band of all time, and I've never really understood that argument. I guess if we're looking at it from a very, very surface level perspective, AJR has a sound that you might be able to describe as overwhelming or obnoxious, and while I think there are AJR songs that fit that bill, I don't think it's fair to judge the entire artist based on that. Now that being said, it's also just been a while since I've revisited the catalog of music from Adam, Jack, and Ryan met. After a pretty hardcore AJR phase in college, as well as a few negative reactions to some newer tunes, I think I just kind of needed to take a breather for a bit. For a few years. Yeah, it's been a minute since I've explored any of this music. So that's what we're doing today. Sit back, relax, and enjoy, because I listen to every AJR album, so you don't have to. The AJR brothers have been performing long before the name AJR was even a thing. They initially started as street performers and buskers under the name TB Cubed, and eventually created their YouTube channel AJR Brothers, where they'd upload covers from the Lumineers, Fun, and Ed Sheeran, among others. Eventually the trio began working on their own original music, with their debut single I'm Ready getting some pretty substantial attention in 2013. 2 years later, their debut record Living Room was released. For the longest time, this was my least favorite AJR record. I recall my first listen 5 years ago being pretty unpleasant from start to finish, and I had no desire to ever return to any of these songs. Whether I wanted to or not, though, I was going to be listening to it this time around. I went in with an open mind, I hit play, I listened along, and it was not nearly as bad as I remember. It's not the Mona Lisa. Living Room has its fair share of duds and irritating moments, but I also found a good chunk of it to be cute or redeeming. Living Room has two singles, those being the obvious I'm Ready and Infinity. Generally, I'm Ready is a song that I don't have many thoughts on. I find the SpongeBob sample to be a little annoying, but beyond that, the rest of the song is pretty inoffensive. It's a true 5 out of 10 if I have ever seen one. The definition of mid, one might say. Infinity, on the other hand, felt nostalgic. It screams 2010's pop radio material to me. I don't know that I'd end up going back to this song super frequently, but it was a pleasant surprise on those listens, so I'm happy with it for that. And now, while we've got me in a positive mood, let's talk about some other good songs on Living Room, starting with Overture. Now, it's sort of common on AJR records for them to start with some sort of an overture medley of all the songs on the record, and Living Room started this tradition. While I definitely approached Living Room with a healthy dose of skepticism, Overture put me in the right mindset to give the project a fair shot, so you gotta give it credit for that. Pitchfork Kids is another song that surprised me for the better. As far as AJR songs go, Pitchfork Kids has a pretty cool intro. It feels spooky, like a song you play around Halloween time. The verses build up to a satisfying release of pressure in the chorus, and while I don't love every single aspect of this song, the intro and the chorus are enough to make it appealing to me. If there's any song I can see myself going back to in the future, though, it is definitely Livin' on Love. If you ask me, this is probably the catchiest song on the entire record. I love the instrumentals, the time signature changes are fun, the vocal performances are clean. What else can you ask for? It's creative. And finally, Marble Heart. All around, this is a pretty mid song for me, but the gang vocals in the background of the chorus gave me chills. Yeah, I don't really have that much to add about it. I just kind of want to give it a shout out for that. Alright, time for the songs that I was not so crazy about. The list wasn't as long as I was anticipating, but there are a few. So let's start with My Calling. My Calling just feels like an incomplete song to me. It feels like it's missing something. Maybe like a bass line, I don't know. The song somehow manages to sound incomplete and repetitive at the same time. So I'm not really sure how that's possible, but here we are. Well, My Calling was mostly unpleasant. Woody Allen is a song that I spent a lot of time on the fence over. I couldn't decide whether I loved or hated the song, and now that I've gotten to mull it over for a bit, I think it's on the lower end of the album for me. The song has a main riff that I find to be incredibly distracting, and while Jack has a pretty fun lyrical flow, Ryan's performance is quite underwhelming on this song. Thirsty, on the other hand, is a song that I have no positive things to talk about. I genuinely will never understand the appeal of the song. I don't really know who thought yodeling would be a good fit on this song either, but it's doing nothing positive for me. If Thirsty's your song, go for it. Good for you. I'll be happy if I never hear this song again. And to kind of sum things up before we move on, the last thing I want you to take away from this is any anti-living room sentiment, especially if that album is your jam. If I disagree with you on something, that's fine. It's all subjective. That's the great thing about music, is we can all have our own opinions, and we can all have our own special meanings for every single song. While Living Room is an album I've been kind of harsh on in the past, my listen for this video was a lot more enjoyable than I was expecting it to. I set the bar really low, and Living Room still managed to jump over it, didn't just hit the bare minimum. And I might just even come back to a few of these songs in the future, but that's neither here nor there. For now, let's talk about AJR's most influential album. AJR's sophomore album, The Click, came out in June of 2017, with the deluxe version coming out just over a year later. And man, this is one solid album. This is also what I'd call the most popular AJR album, in my opinion. Or at the very least, it's one of the most big hit songs on it. You can shuffle this album or even just play it through, and chances are someone you know will know at least one song off this record. Popularity, of course, does not always necessarily tie into quality. So let's take a look and see if these songs can actually hold up. The Click has 6 singles on it: Call My Dad, I'm Not Famous, Weak, Drama, Sober Up, and The Good Part. Alright, so 2 things I'm noticing. 1, this is a lot of songs for singles. And 2, this is a weird choice of songs for singles. Now, I guess things are kind of weird because there was an entire EP of songs from The Click before The Click was even announced, so I think some of those are sprinkled in here, but I went with Call My Dad as the lead single. We'll come back to that later, because that aside, The Click has its fair share of high moments. For instance, the overture. Once again, the mashup of each song is pretty cool, and my only nitpick is that the metronome at the end of the song doesn't line up with the tempo of The Good Part. It's just like such a minor nitpick thing, but it's so annoying in my head. Netflix Trip is an AJR song that holds a really special spot in my heart, though. This was one of my first exposures to AJR, thanks to my good old pal Juice. I'm pretty sure I was even watching The Office for the first time when he put me onto the song, so I think that kind of helps solidify the importance of it. Yes, it's a bit of a corny song, but I think we've all kind of done that, associated our life with little details, like what season of The Office we're watching. So I think the corniness kind of adds to it. Now, Weak, Beyond a Shadow of a Doubt, is my favorite single from The Click. I don't know if it's entirely my favorite song from the album, but it's pretty damn close. Weak has a crazy powerful drop at its chorus with a simple and relatable set of lyrics. I don't know if mosh pits happen at AJR concerts, but if they do, it should be to this song. While Weak is definitely the more popular song on the record, I think it's safe to say that Sober Up is the better one. I feel like even people that don't like AJR kinda like Sober Up. It's a pretty likable song. We're all used to comparisons of drugs and alcohol to life and love, but Sober Up feels like a fresh take on those metaphors. And also, this is just a song that is impossible to not sing along to. It's just like, one, do, 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 doop, ba, ba, doop, boop, sober up. Come Hang Out is another strong point for me. Yes, we're listening to the deluxe version of the album for this video, but Come Hang Out will always be the closing track of the album in my mind. To me, the chorus and the bridge are the high points of the song. Come Hang Out has a ton of great build-ups leading to rewarding drops, and I don't feel like the song ever lets me down. And of course, Burn the House Down. You, like me, also probably had trouble escaping this song at one point or another. When I first listened to The Click, I was honestly appalled to figure out that this song didn't make it onto the base album. My enjoyment of this song has admittedly been a slow burn, because Burn the House Down used to be a song I couldn't stand, but nowadays I'm a little fonder of it. This is also definitely a song that I think would translate way better to a live setting than it would to just being on an album. So until I see AJR live, I won't really know that. But it's good. And while there are a ton of other amazing songs that I would love to talk about, I do want to keep this video at a reasonable length. So let's move into some of The Click's lower points for me, starting with Call My Dad. Now, let's get one thing straight. Lyrically, I found Call My Dad to be pretty powerful. The narrator sort of sounds helpless and clueless and desperate for some normality in his life. Even with these somber lyrics though, whatever vocal filters are going on here are just not doing it for me. You lost me, Ryan, you lost me. This song is pretty consistently a skip for me. Also, and this is really nitpicky, but AJR just always sounds so awkward dropping F-bombs on songs, and this one really isn't an exception to that. It just feels out of place and forced. To me, AJR also sometimes doesn't feel like a band who knows what audience they want to cater to. Their listeners are very young, but we're also dropping F-bombs and singing songs about weed. Yeah, No Grass Today is one specimen of a song. At the risk of sounding Republican, I don't need No Grass Today in my AJR songs. This one's also usually a skip for me. No Grass Today is also what I'd call a reasonable example of AJR taking things a little too far, not knowing when to quit. Now, I love a little experimentation here and there, and I think AJR is for the better when they're getting creative. The other side of that, though, is creativity in this sense comes with diminishing returns. And No Grass Today is hitting those diminishing returns at ludicrous speeds. For me, it's the distractingly annoying background instrumental, but there's any number of issues you can find with this, and I think would be valid. But Like You isn't necessarily a bad song, but I think it's placed a little weirdly on the record. We just came off of the emotional and retrospective Netflix trip, and now we're thrust into what sounds like AJR making an Irish drinking song. Just put it somewhere else on the record, and I think it would be totally fine. Drama has one or two catchy lines with the he said, she said phrase, but beyond that, the song doesn't really impress me. And 330, on the other hand, is a song I used to be quite fond of, but this time around I couldn't tolerate it. The rhythm section of this song is fun and bouncy, but I find it sort of hard to keep up with. It's distracting, but it's not enough to make me skip it. So, brownie points? Now, I didn't expect my album of The Click to be bad, by any means, but if I'm being honest, I didn't expect it to be this good! Yes, there are low moments, but every album is going to have its lows and highs. That's just how it goes. Speaking of that, let's talk about another banger. 2019's Neotheater was my first full AJR album. It's also been my favorite for the longest time, so let's see if it still stands up today. I would also say this one is pretty up there as far as popular AJR releases goes. While I think The Click is the record that really kind of put them on the map, Neotheater to me is the one that really solidified them as a band saying, yep, we are here to stay. Consistency is also a huge strong point on Neotheater. While The Click sort of looks like the S&P 500 with its highs and lows, Neotheater looks more like a plateau of consistent quality. Neotheater has 3 singles on it: 100 Bad Days, Birthday Party, Dear Winter. It's a small selection, but it's to the point, and I think this is their best selection yet. 100 Bad Days in particular is really strong. If you ask me, stronger than weak. Of any song on the record, this is the perfect one to be a lead single, so I'm glad that's the one they chose. Birthday Party, on the other hand, is a song that I've never really been too fond of, but we'll come back to that later. For now, let's talk about Next Up Forever, also known as my favorite AJR song of all time. Next Up Forever is grandiose, but doesn't overdo it like the previous songs. It almost reminds me of something off of Ever After, or Astoria by Marianas Trench, if that means anything to you. It's the perfect way to begin Neotheater, as well as a go-to hype-up song of mine. Break My Face used to be my favorite song on the record, and while it doesn't hold that spot anymore, it's still one I'm pretty fond of. It's carefree and oddly motivating, and that's good enough for me. If there's any song I'm glad to see popularity for, though, it's gotta be Karma. I'd be upset if the song wasn't getting the recognition it deserves, because it's a banger. In particular, Jack's vocal flow and performance is outright insane on this song. He nails it. Dear Winter, if you ask me, is the most agreeable AJR song besides Sober Up. If you don't like this one, chances are you're not going to give anything else a shot from AJR. While I can definitely see an argument for it being overplayed, Dear Winter is mad cute, and you cannot change my mind on that. And of course, we cannot talk about Neotheater without talking about Finale. Holy cow, what a way to end off an album. I'll always be sad I missed out on this era of AJR because, Lord Almighty, I would have loved to see this song live to close at a concert. Just the videos of it look insane, and I just have a feeling those don't do any justice to the actual thing whatsoever. And now, like I said, Birthday Party isn't my favorite song, but I think of it more like a good song on an album full of great songs. It's just the least great one. To nobody's surprise, Neotheater has held up beautifully over the years. It's been nice to revisit it with a kind of fresh mindset, having not listened to it in a long time. But for better or for worse, this isn't where our journey ends, so let's move on. Now, in the midst of the COVID pandemic, AJR cooked up their 4th studio album, OK Orchestra, which released in March of 2021. While there are redeeming moments on OK Orchestra, I find it to be a pretty steep drop-off from both Neotheater and The Click. The high points of this record, while good, aren't eclipsing any of those from its predecessors. The low points, on the other hand, are pretty close to rock bottom for me. That being said, it's still a better experience than Living Room if you ask me, so let's talk about why. OK Orchestra has 5 singles: Bang, Bummerland, My Play, Way Less Sad, and World's Smallest Violin. Not a bad selection. I'd unironically call this one of their best selections, right up there with Neotheater. Also, not to be a pretentious dick, but I was listening to Bang before it was cool to listen to Bang. That being said though, I always felt that Bang didn't really fit in on this album. It doesn't sound like a song off of OK Orchestra. It sounds like a song on OK Orchestra that just kind of got slapped onto the record. Bummerland, on the other hand, is a song that I genuinely love. It's peppy and upbeat and definitely helped me beat some of the quarantine blues. Bummerland to me is like a sunny day after a thunderstorm. It's all about the light at the end of the tunnel, making it to the end of a hard day, and knowing that you're gonna get past whatever crap is weighing you down right now. The following single, My Play, is yet another song that knocked it out of the park. I feel like you don't hear that many songs about divorce and like the impacts of it, but maybe that's just me. Either way, My Play is a really interesting look into divorce from the perspective of a child. It's crushing, devastating, but also has a touch of hope and happiness in it too. One might say it's enough to make a grown man cry. Moving away from singles for a moment, Christmas in June is one hell of a final track. So far, AJR has been pretty consistent with these, so it shouldn't come as a huge surprise, but man, this is one good song. I think putting a twist into the narrative of a song can sometimes be a little contrived, but AJR's execution in this instance is phenomenal. All of these requests about Christmas, while understandable, seem a little excessive at times, until you find out right in the final line that they're talking about having a kid, and what that's like being a touring musician. At that point, all the pieces fall together, and Christmas in June closes out the record. And of course, we have to talk about World's Smallest Violin. This is another one I like to brag about enjoying before it's popular to do so, but at the center of it all, I'm just happy that this song blew up the way it did. It's such a fun track that reminds me of Sober Up in the sense that I can't not sing along to it. Now as for the bad songs, there's a few. Once again, Bang feels out of place and disjointed as part of OK Orchestra, but I won't spend any more time complaining about it. For now, let's talk about Joe. Joe isn't completely bad. I think the concept is interesting, at least as far as lyrics go, and the background beatboxing is sort of cool. Overall though, most of the instrumentals just feel pretty distracting, and the chorus doesn't really do anything for me. Joe is sadly another case of not knowing when to call it quits. The only other song I'd say I actively dislike is The Trick, which I don't think will come as a surprise to anybody familiar with AJR's discography. This is not a popular song as far as I know. If I were to describe this song in kinder words, I would say that The Trick is an acquired taste. How I'd actually describe it is one of the most annoying songs I've heard in recent memory. I was legitimately dreading the moment I'd have to listen to this song, and as much as you might think that that's an overreaction, my ridiculously low expectations were somehow not even met with this song. If you see my past videos in this series, you know that I really don't like weird-ass vocal filters, and the one in this song takes the frickin' cake. For all you Trick fans out there, this isn't a dig at you. Keep living your best life. I just don't want to listen to this anymore. And this is normally where I talk about more bad songs, but I find the rest of the album to be pretty lackluster. 3 O'Clock Things, Adventure Is Out There, Ordinary-ish People, and Humpty Dumpty are all songs I find to be incredibly unremarkable. They're not outright annoying, but I can't think of many memorable things from any of those songs. For as much as I just dug into OK Orchestra though, I still have a lot of really positive memories around. COVID was tough on a lot of us, and music was a big escape for me. I'm always going to associate OK Orchestra with that time of my life, with better weather, with the conclusion of my junior year of college. My friends and I were always hanging out on Discord. I have a lot of positive memories from this era of my life, and OK Orchestra was the soundtrack for a good chunk of it. So that's kind of cool to look back on, if you ask me. With that, we have arrived at The Maybe Man, AJR's most recent album from 2023. This is also the only one that I hadn't listened to prior to this video. I went into The Maybe Man with zero expectations. I knew one full song. I'd heard a few snippets of songs from social media. That was it. What I discovered in my first listen was an incredibly middle-of-the-road, inoffensive album. It's not bad by any means. If anything, it's a step up from OK Orchestra, but I don't find many of these songs to be blowing me away. starting with the singles. The Maybe Man has 6 singles: I Won't, The DJ is Crying for Help, The Dumb Song, God is Really Real, Yes I'm a Mess, and Inertia. They're fine songs on their own, but most of them don't really have the same staying power as previous singles. If any of these songs really tickle my fancy though, The DJ is Crying for Help is probably one of them. If I had to guess, this is probably the song I've heard most in the form of snippets on social media, and I gotta say, it's pretty neat. It's probably not my favorite off the entire album, but the violin goes pretty hard, so it's enough for me. The Dumb Song puts AJR on the board as 2 for 2 with catchy songs. Jack's lyrical flow in this song is somehow insane and nonchalant at the same time, and they flow effortlessly into a dope chorus with some crazy good horns. Add this one to the list of AJR songs I would mosh to, it's pretty sick. Yes I'm a Mess is the last of the singles I'd say I really enjoy, and it's mostly for this melodic whistle line. I'm pretty sure I don't know any of the lyrics to this song besides Yes I'm a Mess, but it doesn't take long for that damn whistle to get stuck in my head. Moving on though, let's talk about some subpar songs, starting with the lead single, I Won't. I'm pretty sure this song is the reason I never gave The Maybe Man a fair shot, because I'm really not fond of I Won't. While it's got some good piano flourishes, it's not enough to make up for the bland and uninspired chorus. To me, I Won't is unremarkable at best and obnoxious at worst. 2085 was also a mild disappointment. On its own, the song is fine, but as a closing track, I don't know. AJR fumbled right at the finish line here. It doesn't feel like a proper AJR finale, it doesn't feel like the end of an era, as it should. And finally, to close out my least favorite tracks, it's The Maybe Man. Man, this was tough to put down as a bad song, but the title track did not leave a pleasant taste in my mouth on my first listen. Similarly to 2085, The Maybe Man doesn't have the grandiosity or power of any of its predecessors, which is generally what I expect from the first track of an AJR album. Obviously, things would be boring if everything happened exactly according to my expectations, but that doesn't mean this is a good song. The Maybe Man is a tough start to The Maybe Man. Okay, we're done. Like I said, there ain't much craziness going on with this record. AJR played it pretty safe, if you ask me, and while that might be cool for some, it's not my favorite experience for them. But, whatever. We're done. On to the fun part. Let's rank all these albums. Number 5, Living Room. Even if I did come back with fresh mindset and discovered something better than what I remembered, I don't really have that much motivation to go back to Living Room, at least in its entirety. There are cute moments here and there though, so that's kinda neat. Number 4, OK Orchestra. While it's always gonna hold a sentimental spot in my heart, this album is just not doing it for me. I really don't think it's their strongest work. Number 3, The Maybe Man. If we're being honest, this is really a toss-up between 3 and 4. The Maybe Man and OK Orchestra are essentially on the same level for me. This is just what we're feeling today. They're both just alright. Number 2, The Click. We've gotten to the point of choosing favorite children now with these last two, and this was an incredibly difficult choice to make. If OK Orchestra and The Maybe Man are good, The Click is great. And number 1, Neotheater. Once again, this is a toss-up. I think Click and Neotheater can both fit the number 1 spot, but I do want to recognize Neotheater's consistency across the entire board. The low points are still really solid. Neotheater is so good. Alright, it's time for everyone's favorite segment for fans of AJR. This is the portion of the video where I recommend similar artists for you to check out if you enjoy AJR. This has also been really difficult to do this time around because AJR is such a unique artist that's hard to replicate, but I'm gonna do my best, so stick with me. First up is Mariana's Trench. You heard me mention these guys earlier and for good reason. This has always been a no-brainer to me because I see a lot of similar theatrics and grandiosity from both artists. There may be a bit on the punkier rock side, but I think you'll still find enough similarities to enjoy. My personal recommendations for songs are Haven't Had Enough, The Killing Kind, Down to You, and Wildfire. If you want to support an independent artist though, look no further than Connor Price. Connor's music dabbles primarily in rap, but he strays into pop pretty frequently, and usually has some funky cool beats that remind you of AJR. If you like AJR, I recommend checking out Connor's songs Stray Days, Cubicle, Tuesday, and Overnight. And finally we have The Rex. This is a band that definitely leans more on the rock side of things, but they implement a lot of creative production that can fit the AJR bill. Top songs for me include F Somebody, Where Are You Now, Always Every Time, and Infinitely Ordinary. I think it's really easy to make judgments based on 1 or 2 songs. We as humans love to judge each other, whether that's based on appearance, personality, or anything in between. If you ask me, I think AJR gets a pretty bad rap from a brief exposure from 1 or 2 time listeners. I can see the validity in certain arguments and tastes, but I think more often than not we see a lot of hyperbolic statements about this band. They are by far not the worst band I've ever heard. Either way though, what actually does matter is AJR's audience. There are millions of people across the globe who have shared positive experiences with this band, whether that's through concerts, sharing music, social media interactions, VIP experiences. Whether you like AJR or not, you gotta admit that's pretty cool. Anyways, thanks for watching. If you're an AJR fan, feel free to share your favorite memories from the band, or your favorite songs, or your favorite points from this video, and if not, feel free to share with me what isn't for you about AJR. I would love to hear your perspective, in a constructive manner. As promised, I'll be back next month with another video in this series. This time we'll be looking at 21 Pilot's entire discography, which has been an incredibly popular request in my comments. I hope you're excited for that. I've also got a really exciting announcement coming next week, but you're just gonna have to stay tuned. So stay safe, take care of each other out there, and I'll see you next time.